subhanahu wa ta'ala, and peace and blessings be upon him, after whom there is no prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. MashaAllah, this is our second webinar before the blessed month of Ramadan. Yesterday we had Ustad Yasir Shah with us to talk about Ramadan and how best to get ready for it, basically. Today is a follow-on from that session, you could say, mashallah. We've got, for all the people out there who are into self-development and so on, and improvement and productivity, mashallah, there's many books out there, Stephen Covey and so on. But one name that stands out is Tony Robbins. I think everybody knows who Tony Robbins is, about as popular as Donald Trump or something. So today for you guys out there, mashallah, we've got something really special for you. And honestly, please do share this video with all your friends and family, even after. If they're not tuned in now, share it with them, because they will really benefit from this, because we're covering something really special today, mashallah. I've got a friend, mashallah, who I've known for many, many years, I think a couple of decades actually, mashallah. We've got Tushar, Imdad with us, mashallah, all the way from Leicester. I still believe you're there. And fantastic. Yeah. And he's what I would call the Asian Tony Robbins, mashallah. Just before I get him on, I just want to mention that for all the people out there who watch Dragon's Den, we've got a Muslim version of Dragon's Den as well. And Tushar was actually a winner this weekend, mashallah, of the Dragon's Den. And inshallah, we will talk about that. But before we do, I'd like to welcome Tushar. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Welcome salam, Naser. I've not seen you for a long time. You've aged so well, mashallah. You look exactly the same as when I saw you in Hajj.
MashaAllah. Yeah, mashallah. Likewise, mashallah. And how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah, Tushar is very busy. He's only given us half an hour today, so
I'm in between my son's parents' evening and his madrasa, so it's like literally
mashallah.
Between the two. Yeah.
So let's go into it straight away. But before we do that, you just give a brief introduction about yourself in terms of how you got into Islamic time management and what is it?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so my background's in teaching. So even when we met, I think I was fully fledged teacher. And I was working in Muslim schools, maybe mainly in Leicester. Leicester's got a few famous Muslim schools, Madani. I went from Madani to working in the private Muslim school sector, a bit like Dr. Musharraf's schools. In fact, I actually coordinated with Dr. Musharraf. We had Manara education, and we had close ties with Karimia. And I remember when we did our fundraisers, he would come and talk and stuff. And I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, right? So even when I did that, I'd do that part-time, and then I'd be tutoring in the evenings, right? And so I called it was called Shakespeare tuition. So even then I had this kind of English, I was the English teacher, English for the Muslims, Shakespeare, so that went well. I did homeschooling things. And then, slowly, I always had this obsession with time management. And, from my uni days, I would, you mentioned Stephen Covey, that's one of the first books I read and taught, right? And I even did workshops back in 2010, but it wasn't serious. It was like same time Productive Muslim was getting big. I even collaborated with him, but I just tried a little bit, did a few workshops, and I even coached even back then. I'd have even scholars come to my workshops or start as online coaching. But it's just something. I was still a teacher. Fast forward, 10 years, and around 2019, I was fully self-employed. I was doing online courses. I had my online Shakespeare Academy. I was tutoring. I had my own tutoring agency, and then I was starting to dabble in teaching adults. Right, so I had a book club, an online book club, and I was teaching kids. And I realized that adults don't read. Right, all the parents were complaining about their kids not reading. I'm like, well, do you read? They do. So I was teaching Charles Dickens to adults. Then that went into non-fiction, and then naturally, I'm passionate about time management. We started teaching time management on those. And then I thought, well, why don't I go into that more seriously? And so I started doing online time management courses, and I started training, investing in myself, and I decided, let me go all in. And one of my teachers actually, the critical point was when I said, I can either go into kind of time management, coaching and training, or I can teach kids, right, in terms of book clubs and just specialize in saving children from computer games and video games, right? And the Sheikh said a funny thing. He said, I think that's going to be a bit of a tough task getting kids away from video games, and that, I think that battle's might be lost already. But time management training, that could really help the ummah. And alhamdulillah, I give shukr for that advice, because that's what I did, and I've not looked back since. And so and to answer your question, what is it? You've mentioned Tony Robbins and stuff like that. I actually go to their program. I went to UPW Live. Right? Many people talk about these guys, but they don't actually go to their events. So I go to their events. I'm often the only Muslim there. And sometimes I've benefited so much from these programs. I'm like, this is Sunnah, this is Quran, this is Deen. we just need to change it a bit, get rid of the dancing and singing, get rid of, and this is so
Yeah.
beneficial for the Muslims. And so I always had that intention that I'm going to learn this stuff, implement it, and then I'm going to spread it to the Ummah. And that's basically where it started. And in a nutshell, Islamic time management is normal time management. It's the
Yeah.
productivity, time management. I don't water it down. I teach it the way I've been taught it, right? You have to plan your weeks, you have to plan your quarters, you have to plan your years, you have to have goals, you have to have a vision. I teach all that. I don't water it down, but it's Allah centered. So my clients are Muslims naturally. I could coach a non-Muslim as good as any other guy. But when a Muslim comes to me, when we talk about mission and vision, we don't talk about our true north. We talk about the Qibla of our life, right? When we talk about our goals, I'll say to them, look, yeah, I don't care how strong you are in your career. I don't care how strong the rest of your health and everything. Let's just talk about your deen first. Let's check that's in place. If that's in place, then I'm happy to go on the other aspects. If you're struggling in your deen, if you're not praying your 5 times salah, if you haven't even studied your deen, if you've got qada salah you want to make up, well, we're going to start there, because my philosophy, and this is what Islamic time management is all about, if you make Allah your main concern, and this is based on the hadith, then Allah will take care of all your other concerns. But if you focus on these other concerns, which most of us do, then you will drown in their valleys. So I systematically help my clients through, professional, world-class coaching, right? It's the same coaching I'd give to, a millionaire or a influencer. It's the same standard, the same quality, but the focus is Allah. And my clients know that, and I know that, and they're comfortable with that, and that's the difference. So I attract practicing Muslims who are ambitious. They want to be the best, not just in their worship. They want to be the best in their careers. They want to be the best in their health, the best in their family life, in their health. And for me, that's the Sunnah. The Sunnah is that you're excellent in everything, and this is just a professional modern means to help you get there.
So, mashallah, that's fantastic. Now, let me ask you a question. So, if, say, for example, someone is watching this today or in the future and says, well, I pray my 5 namaz, I do my 9 to 5 job, and I'll try to fit in Quran where I can. Why do I need Islamic time management?
That's a great question, right? So one of the first things I'd say is that first of all, do you really know it, right? So when people say they know something, I don't take their word for it, right? Okay, prove it. So for example, I've always been obsessed with the question, what is a practicing Muslim, right? Because the way I grew up, my family, my dad was a Bangladeshi doctor, and he's quite secular, right? So he just pushed me on the education side. So I grew up with a lot of secular Muslims, Muslims who basically were really strong on the career and not very practicing in their worship, but they're very good in the khidmah. They're very generous. They'll help you out, right? That's a type of Islam which we forget as well, right? That the good character, right? The best of you is the best in character. And then on the other side, I also, when I became practicing, I met Muslims who were very strong in their worship, long beards, hijabs, niqabs, right? Praying Quran. But, we know the stereotype, but they're ripping off people, angry in the home, right? And I'd see this imbalance. And I recognized, early on that the Sunnah is combining the two, right? That it means that you are good in your worship. You have your khidmatul khaliq, your khidmah to the creator, but your khidmatul khalq, right? Your khidmah to the creation as well. And so what I realized was that many people, and then I studied a lot myself, right? I was a talib al-ilm for about 15 years. I went off to Jordan. I studied Arabic, right? So
we were there together.
Yeah. Oh, were you there? Yeah. In which year was that? 2000.
Before we went Hajj, when we were Hajj together. Before that, we were in Jordan, remember, together.
Oh my God! Yes, of course, yes,
yes.
You were there, 2003. Yeah. In 2000, subhanallah, years ago. And I went back though. I went back to study for like a year, Arabic specifically. So my point is, and I ran madrasas in Leicester and things, and so I had that built up of knowledge. And so what I do with my clients who say, look, my deen is fine. A lot of them say that, by the way. A lot of them say, oh, I'm fine with my deen. I study Quran, and I'll say, okay, because when people say that, they often they don't have standards, right? So if you want to say you're a lawyer, a good lawyer, a good teacher, or a good accountant, you have professional standards, don't you? So, and you have to meet those professional standards to say you're an accountant, to say you're a lawyer, and they're pretty tough. And so what I built up for my clients is something called the Islamic knowledge audit. And to this day, I've never seen one of these anywhere else. It's like 40 questions. Inshallah, I'm going to develop one for the public. This one's for my clients at the moment. And basically, they come in and they have to answer those questions. It came to 40, by the way. It's amazing, right? It came to 40 questions, which is, subhanAllah, so it's profound. And there's 10 extra for like Sunnah Nafal. But these are just the Fard al-Ain, the obligatory. And it has questions like, people think, oh, Islam is just the 5 pillars, but it's questions like, okay, well, have you had your tajweed checked, your Fatiha checked by a tajweed teacher? Have you written your will? Have you studied the fiqh of marriage and divorce? Have you, studied the sciences of the heart, right? So it has teeth. And most people, when they take it, to give you an example, in America, England's better than America, but in the States, I was in the same San Diego. There was an institute there, like a youth center, and they're all 20-year-olds working there, Somalis, Asians. I gave this audit to them, about 20 of them. And you know what the average score was? Let's say 100%. So you got everything in the audit. What do you think the percentage was in terms of knowledge of their Fard al-Ain?
30%.
It was less than 10, man. 10%
Wow,
alone. I'm
wow,
like,
subhanallah.
they
That's a
hadn't
worry, that
studied
is.
anything,
Yeah.
nothing,
Wow.
anything systematically, right? In England, it's a lot better. But what I've come to realize is that basically, if you've not studied for around 5 years, I'd say 5 years, not like Darul Umsa, I'm just saying just
Mm,
going to classes regularly, I know like Kareem, mashallah, you guys offer a lot of classes, like, going to a tajweed class, going to a fiqh, and you just systematically go through, all what is fun systematically, then you're okay if you've done that in your adult life. But most
mm,
people have missed that boat, especially if you're in the corporate sector, especially if you've
mm,
got a really high power job. They tend to just go from uni to work, 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 married kids, boom, no time for that, right? And that's where they have to catch up. They come to me and they recognize that, oh my gosh, I need to catch up. But it's not enough just to kind of think about it and wish it. They need to do it systematically. They need to put a focus into it. And if I was to sum up what I do, it's like most of my clients are really good in the Muslims are good at their jobs, right? We've got great doctors, great lawyers, rich Muslims, political Muslims, everything, right? They put so much effort and energy in that area. But these same people, if you look at their health, pot bellies and all that, you look at their married life, just
mm,
no passion,
mm,
divorce, arguing all the time, or you look at their parenting, absentee fathers. Look at and look at the deen. Unfortunately, very minimal deen. So what I help to do is help them. They're obviously talented. They're obviously really intelligent, and I help them to get the power of their focus, which is the biggest power we have, and focus that intelligence, that energy, that motivation, and that action into these neglected areas, right? And I'll say in the deen that unless 9 times out of 10, if you think that you've got, you're doing justice to your deen, you're probably not, right? If you're a graduate, most of your listeners and watchers now, they're probably graduates. Ask yourself this question. The amount of time I once did this post, my post on LinkedIn, to Facebook. One of my most popular viral posts was called "How good is your Islamic CV?" Right? I don't know if you've seen it. And what I did, I just did it personally once. I just actually wrote down all my qualifications in secular education. Like did my, primary school, then secondary
mm,
school,
mm.
but I'm a teacher. It's interesting to me,
Yeah.
right? Then degree, then profession, and basically it comes to around 20 years. What most of us spend in studying and professional training, we spend around 20 years from primary school to, well, by the time we get our, jobs which we're satisfied with, 20 years of study, right? On and off, but that's how much. And then I asked myself, I thought of the average Muslim, how many years have we put in just studying the Islamic sciences in comparison, right? And it's not even a year. We add
Mm,
up all
mm,
these little tiny classes we do, and that's a gulf. And so I say that, yeah, if you think you are practicing, if you think you study the deen, well, first of all, question that. Do you really? Take the audit or audit yourself. And if that's the first protocol. The second thing I'd say is that if you've never been coached or you've never been trained in time management, you don't know what you don't know. It's like anything in life, right? Someone who's never had a trainer in the gym, they think that they're strong, right? But when you get a trainer, I had a personal trainer recently, and I'm telling you, when you get a good trainer, honestly, when he's not looking, I'm like relaxing. I'm doing
mm,
less reps, and I'm making.
mm,
As soon as he looks, he's like slower, Tushar, slower, slower.
mm,
No, one more rep.
mm.
I'm sure you've experienced it,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Mm,
2x, 10x what you could do by yourself.
mm,
It's the same in coaching. It's the same indeed. When you have someone you're accountable to, and when you have a coach, it is impossible to reach those heights. And just one final analogy, which I love to give, it's something which I recently came up with. In tennis, right? If you want to play tennis on the weekend and just play with your mates, you don't need a coach, right? But if you want to get into the England team, if you want to go
mm.
into, maybe I should say squash. Pakistanis understand squash, right? Right? The Khan
Yeah.
brothers, right? You just play with your mates. You don't need a
Yeah.
coach, right? You want
Yeah.
to get into even the Pakistan team or
Mm,
the Britain
mm,
team, you need a
mm,
coach, right?
mm,
Everyone understands that. So my question to you and to your listeners, do you want to get into the Wimbledon of your life? Right?
mm.
Do you want to live life at that level? Do you want to, meet your potential? And if you do, hiring a coach is one of the best ways to achieve that potential.
And you think there's age limit for this? Anyone over 50, 60 thinking, no, I'm beyond that now, I can't do anything. Would you say there's a
I would say the other way
possibility for
around.
them?
That's a good question. I mean,
Yeah.
normally it's more like, are you too young for it? So typically,
Oh, okay.
a red flag for me is when they're under 30, to be honest with you, right?
All right.
Because normally when you're too young, it's one, you don't have the, but you need to invest in it.
Mm,
It can be expensive.
mm,
And normally you're still trying to find yourself, right? And you still, got your
okay.
student uni debts and all that. And
Yeah.
so normally there needs to be a little maturity. And typically when you're in middle age, and you're married, you got the kids. I
Mm,
get a lot of people in the 30s when they're just starting out, and they're realizing that, whoa, sometimes I get a lot of people just about when they're about to get married in a year's time. They want to sort their life out before the wife moves in, that
yeah.
kind of thing. But really, the I've had my eldest client was 70. She was a
Wow.
storyteller. You might remember her, Miriam Sinclair, the
Yeah. Yeah. Mariam Sinclair.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She was my so I mean, but look at her
Wow.
though.
Fantastic.
She's got that
MashaAllah.
type of mindset, hasn't she? She goes
MashaAllah.
around the world in her 70s
Yeah.
teaching,
Yeah.
mashallah, stories of the prophets, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like that, if you're a
Mm,
dynamic, because yeah, dynamic elder, then
yeah.
yes, coaching can work. The only qualification for coaching is that you need to be ambitious
Mm,
to get to that next level, and you have to know what it's worth, right? Because my programs, frankly, they do cost the
mm,
proper coaching programs, the very cheapest, like kind of mixed with group, around £2,000, but the most common ones are 5K up, right? And people think, oh, it's expensive, but
mm,
actually, because it's a kind of luxury business, right? So my service is like, it's like you buy a car. If you go to a Mercedes showroom, right, or a Ferrari showroom, and they say, oh yeah, it's just £2,000, you're gonna think, what? They're scamming you, right? So
mm.
you would be worried if it was costing anything less than, I don't know, 30K. Well, I have a BM. I don't know about the super luxury cars, right? But you know that it's going to be 20K
Yeah.
plus if whatever
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with me. If you think about it, what is more valuable than actually changing yourself
Mm,
and actually leveling up, right? And so my program, alhamdulillah, works. It actually, I mean, you get some coaches and all they do, they talk to you, it's nice, and oh, how did you do? What did you do this week? No, I'm not like that. My coaching program is all about
yeah.
results. When you
Yeah.
go on my
Mm,
YouTube channel and you look at my case study list, these people transform. So my business is about transformation. So for me, I have no embarrassment about charging 10K, 15K, 20K for my programs, because I'm selling the most priceless thing there is, which is change, right? And
mm,
alhamdulillah, the difference with my clients is that coaching typically is about doubling your income, or
yeah.
getting to that next level. Executive coaching is all about improving your career prospect. So there's always an ROI, right? A return of investment. And I do get a lot of business clients, people who want to set up a business, set up a coaching practice, or level up their business. So for them, coaching, it makes sense
Mm,
because they're losing their productivity. They're not working on the business. They know with me kicking their backside, they're going to make more progress in a few months than they'll do it in a year by themselves. So they're going to make money. So, but the cool thing is, I get clients who work with me. They've got no money incentive whatsoever. I'll tell you, like one of my first clients, he was a guy working for Amazon manager.
mm,
He said to me, he said, Tushar, I feel like my business is good, my work is good, my family life is good, my health is great. I run marathons. He says, but it feels like Allah is number three in my life or number four in my life,
mm.
and I want him to be number one. And I want you to help me systematically get there. I'm like, seriously, you want to invest in coaching to a solution which normally helps people double their income and help their health and what you want to use those means to help you in your deen? He's like, yes. And you don't want to, you're happy to invest the same amount you would do if you're investing in doubling your income to deen? He's like, yes. I'm like, wow, I love clients like you, right? And I even had I had one guy who's a Cambridge Mosque, Cambridge Mosque, is one of the ustads, and he actually wanted to he was just doing hifs, right? And he had a half his teacher and everything, but he was an IT guy. He's doing all this work, and again, he just wanted accountability for
Mm,
his hifs, right? Not for me to listen to his hifs, but just to organize his time, help with his budget, coach him, keep him accountable. And again, he was willing to invest thousands, but just purely for the sake of Allah. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, Deen is the most important thing.
mm,
Deen is the most Deen is really valuable to me. Deen is what I value, and nothing is more
mm.
valuable than Deen. But when it comes to paying for it, then you see the truth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, the clients who work with me, not all of them have worship goals, but some do. They
Yeah.
actually want to get up for tahajjud. They actually want to get up for fajr, and that's what we work on if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And the secret
Alhamdulillah.
is the
Yeah.
time management, the high performance.
Yeah.
And so that's the exciting thing, is using this as a powerful means,
Mm.
right? Just like someone could buy a car and then niyas for the masjid, right? The coaching, you can use it for your worship, or you can use it, for whatever the reason is. And I help them with their intentions. So even if it's for their marriage, I had one guy. I'll just finish on this story. So I'm saying so much on this point, but this brother, it's Ramadan's coming up, and we're talking about what his priorities should be in Ramadan, and he's on the verge of divorce. So I said to him, the purpose of Ramadan, this is going to segue into talk about Ramadan, is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Right now, normally, typically, we think Ramadan, let's increase our Quran, let's increase our dhikr, increase our Taraweeh. Of course, we do that, right? But and this is where coaching and strategy comes into place. If you're on the verge of divorce, right, that becomes the most important worship for you in Ramadan. Nothing could be more valuable than saving your marriage,
Mm.
because you've got a lot of kids as well. You've got more than 3 kids, right? Those kids are going to be
Mm.
affected. Imagine if he just goes in the mosque and he's just doing Taraweeh and his wife's upset and angry, he's not meeting her needs, right? You see, this is where you have to have that wisdom and
Mm.
knowledge. And this is
Mm.
where I can combine my background in Islam with productivity and time management and help my clients strategize and say, look, for you right now, Ramadan, yep, you're gonna fast, you're gonna do the fard, but your number one priority is saving your marriage. And that's what we're gonna work on.
Mashallah, fantastic. Alhamdulillah. I was going to ask you for some examples for people out there that are listening. They're probably thinking, well, give us a case study. Let us know, what have you achieved? So you mentioned a few Islamic examples. Would you give us an example of someone in work-wise, so people who can want to continue after Ramadan? So, for example, you don't have to give a name, obviously. Just tell us
Sure.
what position they were in and what did they achieve?
Absolutely. So, I mean, alhamdulillah, we published my website late last year. So, tusharimdad.com. And inshallah, I'm going to give a nice offer for all your listeners, just for the Nottingham, just for Kareem, inshallah,
Inshallah.
later. But on my website, you'll see that there's a long list of case studies there. And also on my YouTube channel, if you look up Tushar Imdad, I'm the only Tushar Imdad in the world, apparently. So I'm quite easy to find. So just search for me on YouTube.
Yeah.
You'll find my playlist. And there's
Yeah.
that. But let me give you some examples. So one recent example, we're talking about age, quite a young guy. He's in his what I'm seeing now, I don't know if you're seeing it, Naser, is that younger people are getting into entrepreneurship younger and younger now, mashallah,
Yes,
right? Like
definitely.
I got it
Mashallah.
into late
Yeah.
30s.
Mm.
Now this generation, I don't know if it's Generation
Yeah.
Z or it's gone to A or whatever, right? now
Yeah.
subhanAllah, I'm meeting graduates who are starting their
Yeah.
businesses really young. So
Fantastic.
I met this guy, he's a six-figure, he's only 24, 23, 24. He's already got a six-figure business, mashallah. I'm looking at him, wow, he's already at my stage and he's just
Yeah.
started, right? And so he worked for me. He wanted to work on his deen, right? And now his case study title reads, and I can tell you his name because it's on my website. It says, Safe doubled his business by focusing on Allah, right? And I've got a lot of examples like that where their work actually increased, their business
Mm.
doubled through the barakah of working on other areas, right? So
Mashallah.
I've got a lot of examples where we don't
Mm.
actually even target work. We're focusing on their productivity, their schedules, their morning routine, their deen. And what the reason why I call it Islamic time management is that our deen, subhanAllah, gives us so many structures, like, our duha, our fajr, the sunnah sleep, right? There's so many aspects of our life which
Mm.
the
Mm.
sunnah guides anyway. So when you sort all that out, when you really prioritize the way you live, your habits and everything, it affects everything. We call these leveraged habits, right? Health is a leveraged habit. When you improve your energy, right? That energy affects your worship. That energy
Mm.
affects your work. So
Mm.
if you just worked on like in my high performance coaching, if I'm working with a client just on their energy, right? With that energy, okay. Another example, I had a guy. He was oh wait, he was just overwhelmed. He was like, he used to go to sleep drinking a liter of Coke, right, and just crash out on the sofa. It's terrible, right? Really bad state. So we worked on his energy, like getting rid of that Coke habit, right? Worked on his deen. We talked about death, and I scared the life out of the guy, right? To the point he was like
Yeah.
crying, right? Like
Yeah.
thinking about his death, and I took him
Mm.
through a
Mm.
visualization for his death and stuff. And so after so we're working on his energy and spirituality. Guess what? His business started improving, right? He started, he had a clear mind. He started sleeping properly. So it's all interrelated. And I think that's why I've been getting a lot more business clients. In the last year, I had probably just as many business clients than I had productivity clients.
Mm.
And the reason is that they recognize that, look, they could go to a business coach or they could come to me, get their productivity sorted first, because that's been the secret to my business success, is that really good entrepreneurs are very productive. They know how to use their time. They
Mm.
can they can get more done in one day than most other people get done in weeks. So that is a secret. So, and I'll just give one example. I had a lot of sisters come to me who are, mashallah, the sisters are amazing, right? Like the single mom, with, you know, 2, 3
mm,
children,
mm.
homeschool. Okay, I'll give one example. Mutia, she was from Saudi Arabia. She's a gynecologist full time, and then she's check this out. She's homeschooling her kids by herself, homeschooling them,
Wow.
and she's an author. Right, I get a lot of clients like this, especially the women. Mashallah, they're just doing crazy amount of stuff,
Mm,
multitasking to the max. Right,
mm,
but she's obviously overwhelmed on the point of breakdown. Right, and then she comes to me, and this is an example of where, you know, sometimes it's not like a kind of fairy tale ending where like she really needs to get out of the country, maybe come to England,
mm,
right?
mm,
But she couldn't. Practically, that couldn't happen,
mm.
right? So with her, a lot of it is a lot of stress about not being happy with where she was. So with her, it was about helping her have a clarity with her long term ambition, and you know, and being able to work slowly towards that. Getting securing her next contract for her next job so that she was secure financially, and then building a habit where she ended up writing for her new book 1 hour a day, right? And basically sorting out her time. So then she just had peace, alhamdulillah, right? So she knew that, look,
Mm,
she's still, but many of us, we can't change our situation. Maybe we're in a job, we can't get out of it. Maybe we're in a
mm,
country, we can't get out. Maybe we're in a marriage, we can't get out of it right now, right? But we can deal with it in the best way. We can have
mm,
clarity, we can have comfort, we can have peace, and we can know that we're working towards an outcome. It might be, you know,
mm.
like working for Gaza, working for Islam in Britain. We're not going to see results in 1 year, 2 years. It might take a while, but if we know we're in that right direction and we're working towards it, and our time is organized, you can't ask for more than that. And so that was
Alhamdulillah.
that's something that
Alhamdulillah.
happened
Fine.
to.
I'm conscious of time. I know we've got about 5, 6 minutes. Now, if you could just, we want to talk about your courses, but if you want to just give us a couple of minutes of, say, just some tips for people who are listening now, they want to, you know, quick tips, just know what to do to prepare for Ramadan. Do you have anything like that at the moment?
Absolutely. We talked about Sunnah
Yeah.
Superhacks, right? So let me
Yes,
just give
that's right.
three of my favorite Sunnah hacks, right?
Okay.
So there's a few classic ones which ulama mentioned, and I'll try to mention one which ulama don't mention, right? So the ones which the ulama mentioned, which is worth repeating, is the power of intention. Okay.
Hmm.
And something which you might not hear from the scholars is something I call the global intention, right? So in fasting, it's easy to do that, right? That we you know, you make one intention for the whole month, but to get
Hmm.
the maximum reward, we want to renew that intention. So
Hmm.
in habit science, we call this stacking. So you want to stack your intention to something. So the easiest way to stack your intention is at suhoor, right? When you're before you start, right? Is to make sure at that point when you're having your suhoor, make a strong intention for why you're fasting each day,
Hmm.
and that maximizes your reward. So that's the first one, the intention. And we know that from the strength of your intention, you can 10, 70, 700x your reward. This is from hadith, right? Just based on the power of your intention. So that we can't neglect that. And so that's the most important advice, is to renew your intentions, have very big intentions, do that at suhoor each day. A second one is the classic one about the Isha and Fajr, right? We all know, you know, most men should know that if you pray your Isha in the masjid, right, or in a Jama'ah, you get the half the night reward, and the
Hmm.
Fajr. I mean, if that's not a hack, what is, right? That instead
Yes.
of staying up the whole night,
Yeah.
do your
Yeah.
Jamaat and Isha, do your Jamaat and
Mm.
Fajr, get the reward of the whole night in worship. And here's a
Mm.
little thing: is that you don't have to do the tarawih in the whole, right? Scholars are gonna kill me now, right? But the sunnah muakkada is the emphasis is the isha jamaat, right? So
Mm.
if, look, some of us have tough work schedules, right? So for those of you, it's tough for you to do the whole 20 in the mosque, whatever it is, or 8, or whatever you want to do. Just do your, at least do your fard in the masjid, and then come home and pray the rest of them. Is completely, so many scholars do that, right? It's completely fine. And that's, but the thing people forget is that Isha is the bit which you want to get in the
Mm.
masjid.
Mm.
Get
Mm.
that in the masjid. That's your half your night in reward. That's another type of hack as well. And then finally in Quran, I would say that there's I've called it in my tip, it's a slice and dice your Quran time. So when we say Quran, people just think tilawa. I'm just going to recite the Quran. I'm going to just recite the Quran. I'm going to do one juz, two juz, three juz. What I invite people to do is to think of it differently. The, forget this, and especially a traditional city like Nottingham. But Nottingham's pretty good with people like Dr. Mashaf. You know, the point of the Quran is to act upon it, and you can't act upon it unless you know the meaning. So there's various ways to approach the Quran. And so one challenge I often give, and one of my courses which I'm going to be offering to your listeners, is called Quran Velocity Ramadan. So what I did on that is 30 juz, and you get some of this on YouTube, like Omar Suleiman and some of them. But
Mm.
what I did, I noticed the ones on YouTube, they're really long. It's like 1 hour. People don't have time to do that. So I said, look, every time we go to Taraweeh, wouldn't it be amazing? Instead of hearing the tafsir after, what if we did it before?
Mm.
Right? So
Mm.
imagine before Juz 1 comes up, you hear like 20-minute recording, and in that
Mm.
20-minute recording, you hear the highlights of that Juz. And you even hear a bit of the Arabic. So, for example, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ is coming up. We all know this. We heard about this. Do you know what that means? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ, that means which of the blessings of your Lord. When you hear that, like, and I teach in a style to make sure that they remember what I'm teaching. So the idea is you listen to that juz, then go off to the masjid, and then inshallah, even if you haven't studied any Arabic, inshallah, just because of the way I've taught you in English, whilst you're listening to it, oh yeah, that came up in the lesson, that came up, and it'll bring it to life, right? So that's what I recommend, is that whether you do my course or not, is approach the Quran with an approach. Do an English khatam for once, right? Study the English. Like, when's the last time you studied the Quran? You read the Quran from English beginning to end. That's probably more beneficial than the Arabic, for the purpose of connecting to Allah, connecting to His message, right? So that's another way which you can. It's a super hack where we tend to just put our tunnel vision, just tilawah. Tilawah was fine, but if you've not been connected to English, and most of us haven't, is get connected to the meaning, study the Quran for a change, and then feel you'll have a different type of experience, inshallah.
Mashallah, that's fantastic. Alhamdulillah. So we've only got a couple of minutes left. I know you're in a rush. So if you want to just let us know about what courses you have available and what discounts you can give us.
Absolutely. So I've given let me check, I've put this in place. I have decided to give, normally I give sometimes 25% discount, 30%, 50%. And because this is like a special audience, my in-laws all live in Nottingham. I thought, no, let me just be really generous. But I'm Bangladesh, I'm married, Pakistanis are generous. Let me give a generous discount, right? So I'm giving a 75% discount, okay? So you just need to go on tusharimdad.com/courses, or just go on tusharimdad.com and then just find the courses. You'll see it's very easy to find. And inshallah, we can put a link on your social media, and pick any course you want, which is on that website. There's Principles of Islamic Time Management, there's Time Tactics, the Quran Velocity Ramadan's there as well. Anyone you pick, and then on checkout, you just have the coupon code Karimia, right? Karimia. Then that will give you 70% off. But it's time management, so you have to act fast. I'm not going to give you forever. You have until Saturday, right? So until Saturday, 11:59 p.m. If you do it before then, inshallah, you will enjoy that 75% discount, and you'll get some training. There's courses there ranging from, if you use that, you'll be able to pay just 10-20 pounds for something. There's some really good courses like the Successful Muslim, which is 200 pounds, 70% off. Again, it's a bargain of a lifetime. And so if you're interested in anything I've talked about, inspired, you want to learn about time management, productivity, you'll find something to your taste there, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan, Tushar. Just before we leave, I just want, for the viewers today, just to let you know, we got our third session for the webinars before Ramadan tomorrow with Sheikh Bilal Brown. We'll be going through the fiqh of fasting through the Hanafi text, inshallah. So all the Hanafi followers out there, you definitely need to tune in tomorrow and make sure your basics of fasting and Ramadan are there, inshallah. Tushar, Jazakumullah khairan once again, inshallah. And hopefully we can see you around in Nottingham, inshallah, sometime. It's been a long time. We
next
need to
time I
catch up
come, let's hook
up.
Let's check out your chai wallas compared to Leicester's, inshallah.
Inshallah. You take care, inshallah. We'll speak soon.
Okay, take care.
Assalamu alaikum. So listeners out there, viewers, mashallah, that was our second session today, and it'll be saved on our Facebook and YouTube page, inshallah, Creamia. Please do like, subscribe, and share, inshallah, for all our future webinars, so you can be informed of them. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's session, inshallah. I hope you join me 7 p.m. on Creamia, Facebook and YouTube live. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi